Hi everybody, Sean Holsinger here from holsingersflyshop.com. Bringing you another video. This is one that I realized that I didn't have out there. A couple guys have been requesting it, and it looks like I just forgot to put it up there. It's one of my ones from last year that I showed in the video. It's called Steelhead Candy. I'll give you a little quick shot of it here, what it's going to look like when we're all done. It's a nymph with an egg on the back of it. Okay, this worked real well for me fishing for steelhead up in New York last year. I caught some salmon on it too, but I was mainly catching the steelhead on it, some brown trouts. You can't help but not catch them while you're up there. We're going to start out the first part of this fly. We're going to tie the egg on the back of the hook. What I'm using is some 8-pound monofilament, and I'm using it's an 8mm trout egg. And it's just a plastic bead with a hole in the end of it. You can see the hole there. What we're going to do, we're going to run the monofilament through the egg. And then I'm going to come back through the egg, which will create a loop in your line there. I'm going to make that loop pretty big. What I do is I cut off about a foot of monofilament. It's more than I'm going to need, but it's easier to work that way. Then I'm just going to take and let me back out here a little bit for you. Okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to tie a knot with our monofilament. Just, what is it, an overhand knot or whatever. Take the loop through itself here. Okay, you can see what I did there. Okay, then I'm going to take that egg, kind of like a polymer knot, I'm going to take that egg and put it through the loop here that we created. And then just going to pull down on that knot. Okay, and it's going to create 2 lines going through here, which makes it a little bit stronger. You zoom back in, I'll give you a close-up shot of that. Okay, now you can see how I've attached this egg. You got the knot that you created here. It's kind of more or less like a polymer knot is what you're going to tie around this egg, which will make it pretty strong. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tag end off of one of these sides here. You got 2 of them here, so I'm just going to cut one off so you have less of a body that you're going to be tying down here in a second. Now, for my hook, when we're fishing up here for salmon and stuff, which is what we kind of created this for, I'm fishing up in New York on 18 Mile Creek, and where we normally fish for salmon. And we found that the best hook we can use up there for any kind of egg pattern really is a Daiichi X510. And size 10 is the smallest hook they make this in, so I usually tie it in a size 10. What I'll do when I'm tying is, if I'm tying an egg pattern on it, I'm going to tie that egg pattern like a size 14, which is what I typically tie. I would tie the size 14 size fly on the size 10 hook. So you have a smaller piece of, you're only going to use like this much of the hook, not the whole shank of the hook. You know, start it up in here, have a bigger hook gap, nice, better for your hook set. Now we're going to tie down this egg onto the hook here. So we're going to start our red thread. I'm going to bring our egg in. We're going to lay that monofilament down on the hook. And we're just going to wrap it down. Okay, we're going to wrap the thread forward. Now you want to place your hook, your egg. What I do is typically about the tail's length behind there. That's about the distance my tail's going to be. So I want my tail to just about touch that egg. I want it to be carrying that egg along. So that's about good right there. So I'm going to wrap the thread back around, or the fishing line, the monofilament, and I'm going to tie it down. Cut the tag end off here. And then I'm going to come back in and make some better, tighter wraps to secure that a little bit better. Okay, next thing we're going to use for the tail of this fly is I'm going to use a chartreuse dyed guinea feather. Okay, and what we're going to do, I'm just going to peel off the fluff at the back here. Okay, then I'm going to take about 10, 15 or so fibers off of this, and this is going to be my tail right here. So I'm just going to pull these off. Try to keep them straight. Get them the same, get the tips the same length. And then we're just going to lay this down on top of our hook and create our tail. Like I said, we're going to take the tips right about to the egg. Just lay them down on top. Wrap it back to the bend of the hook. And trim off our excess here. Okay, so you see how we have our tail tied on there. Now, the next thing we're going to put on is some Mylar hollow tinsel in teal is the color. Blue just works good up there. We find pretty much anything in blue we catch fish on. So I like to tie these in blue. I've tied them in green, reds, anything. Doesn't really matter. I think they're more keying on that egg. But it's kind of like a steak and egg kind of pattern. And if you watch my steak and egg video, you'll see in there how I tie that egg on too. But we're just going to wrap this tinsel down. Going to wrap it back to the tail. Then we're going to wrap it forward, overlapping it. Wrap it whole way up to the bead. Oh, I should say also, the bead I'm using here on this one to match the size of that X510 hook and the size 10 is a 5/32 gold bead. You could use tungsten if you want. I'm just using a gold one. Of course, tungsten will be a lot heavier, get you down faster. Okay, just going to wrap that the whole way up to the front and tie it down. Now this Mylar tinsel, it's going to slide around on you if you don't tie it down. If you don't put it down with something, it will actually slide, especially if you catch a fish. You'll have gaps, you'll see your thread through it. So what I'm going to use is my UV clear fly finish in the flow. The flow will go on a lot smoother than the thick that I normally use. The thick that I'll normally use to build up eyes and stuff like that, it builds up. The flow actually covers like this, more of like a head cement kind of thing. So I'm just going to hit that with my UV light real quick, and that's good and sealed. Okay, now the last part we're going to put on this is black cactus chenille in the medium size. And I'm just going to cut a little piece of this. You don't need much of it. You're only going to put about 2 wraps on here. So I'll actually cut like a 3 or 4 inch piece and use it for 2 or 3 flies. But we're just going to set it on top of here, tie down the edge. And like I said, we're only going to make probably about 2 wraps at the most. Doesn't take much of this. Pull these back to stand them up a little bit. Get my 2 wraps there. And then I'm going to tie it down right here behind the bead. Pull it down tight, get that thread to pop in behind that bead there. Then we'll trim it off. Okay, now we're going to put our collar on here, and why we're using the red thread. Put a little hot spot collar on here. We're going to whip finish it. And I whip finish this on the collar right behind the bead there. And that is all that's to this steelhead catching little fly here. That is the finished steelhead candy fly. Pretty simple to tie. Like I said, it's kind of like a steak and egg pattern, just a little bit different variation that I put on it. You know, you watch my videos, you know I like things flashy. I tend to catch a lot of fish on the flashy flies. So, you like it, give it a try. I hope it works for you like it worked for me last year. Like I said, go with that X510 hook. You see the hook, the big wide hook gap in it, that gives it a lot of extra hook set chance. We really like to use that up there when we go up for salmon and brown trout. I hope it works good for you as it did for me, like I said. And anything you need to tie these flies, you can find on our website, holsingersflyshop.com. Check us out there. And if you need any information, you feel free to email me through my Holsinger's Guide Shop, or Holsinger's Guide Service website, holsingersguideservice.com. So anything you need, get a hold of us. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Sean Holsinger.